everybody, I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Mary with Mary Greeley News. I want to discuss and inform you guys about recent developments that are going on here in the United States and around the world. So please stick with me until the end of this video. In New York City, the Roosevelt Hotel Processing Center for newly arrived immigrants has reached capacity in Midtown Manhattan. On Monday morning, asylum seekers were sleeping on the sidewalks, winding around the hotels, the whole block at 46 and Vanderbilt. It's mostly men because women and children are given priority, and they have set up buses for air conditioning, but most of these people are sleeping outside in the weather, the heat, and the rain. There's no place for them to go. All the shelters are completely filled up. Many of you might remember the Hotel for Homeless Veterans, where the veterans were kicked out to make room for these people coming into our country. Well, there's no places left, evidently. 2 more banks have failed. They closed down, one being the Kansas Heartland Tri-State Bank. That was closed by the FDIC. This makes the 5th bank so far this year that became insolvent. Heartland Tri-State Bank was closed on Friday. U.S. Bank is announcing 7 more branches that are closing in the greater Cincinnati area after 6 branches closed earlier this year. Officials said the closures are due to the company reevaluating its physical footprint, causing it to consolidate a number of branch locations in certain markets. Besides, Bank of America evidently closing down accounts, claiming suspicious activity. There's a report that was published today saying Chase Bank also is allegedly closing or shutting down accounts without a valid reason. Some are suggesting a political bias action. More shocking news, in the state of Illinois, illegals now can become police officers. Yeah, you heard me right. Pritzker signed a bill to allow illegal immigrants to become police officers, giving non-citizens the power to arrest citizens in Illinois. According to the bill's description on the Illinois General Assembly website, it amends the state's municipal code, providing that an individual who is not a citizen but is legally authorized to work in the United States under federal law is authorized to apply for the position of police officers. The new bill allowing eligible non-U.S. citizens in Illinois to become police officers was signed into law by Governor J.B. Pritzker on Friday. The measure, House Bill 3751, successfully passed the Democratic-controlled State House and the State Senate before being signed into law by the Democratic governor this last week. The bill, which will come into force on January 1st of 2024, allows eligible immigrants who are not in possession of a U.S. citizenship to join enforcement in Illinois, something the federal laws currently forbid. This country is definitely being destroyed from within. Also, there in the UK, a letter to a collective Ukrainian and Western NGOs earlier this month, NGOs that are working in Russia. They said that they would fully comply with a Russian law requiring all companies operating in the country to permit the conscription of employees should they be called upon for military service. Unilever, the company, said they would do the same, and different brands that they carry is Dove, shampoo and soaps, Lifebuoy, Magnum, I have no idea what that is. Wow, Ben and Jerry's, Hellman's, Axe, and it's got more listed here that this company controls. Yeah, Breyers, I think of Breyers ice cream. Wow. Persil, I wasn't sure about that. Evidently it's a German brand of laundry detergent. And then Briars. Yeah, ice cream. Oh, good humor bar. Boy, if you're working for any of these countries and you're in Russia, yeah, you can now be joining the Russian military, which has probably lost about 200,000 soldiers in their war, and they're, yeah, telling just about anybody that they gotta go. Hellman's? Wow. So let's say you're a CEO for one of these countries or a salesman for Unilever. Sorry for pronouncing that wrong. Well, evidently, according to the agreement that was signed there in the UK, yeah, they could send you off to war. I am not making this up. Here's an article on The Guardian. Yeah, and of course Ukraine is telling them that they're a sponsor of war. Yeah, I don't know which is more shocking. Let's say we're going to have illegal people here in the United States arresting United States citizens, or you're working for a company and you could be sent off to war in Ukraine. I got more to tell you that's going on. This world's gone nuts. And it talks about the different brands that they own here. You might be looking for a job someplace else. This is not fake news. Here is a copy of that letter from, yeah, their office in London, it looks like. We would like to reiterate that Unilever absolutely condemns the war in Ukraine as a brutal, senseless act by the Russian state. And we continue to join the international community in calling for stability and peace in the region. But yet they're going to send their employees to fight in the Russian army. Right. Talk is cheap. The first option would be to try to close down the businesses which currently employ around 3,000 people across 4 manufacturing sites and head office. It is clear that if we abandon our business and brands in the country, they would be, taken over by the Russian state. The second option would be to sell the business, but to date we have not been able to find a solution which avoids the Russian state potentially gaining further benefits and which safeguards our people. Boy, that 3,000 could be drafted. It also says that they do not supply any of their goods directly to the Russian military. Well, they could just go in and purchase it on their own. Yeah, so much for boycotts, right? Right now, probably the biggest threat is the agreement between China and Russia. Recently, they made agreements with Iran and North Korea. With Iran's nuclear breakout timeline now at zero analysis, the view from Beijing and Moscow on Iran's capability to produce nuclear weapons is on short order. Iran and China have benefited strategically from the war in Ukraine. The war has solidified the trilateral alliance as an anti-West bloc. For China, the war in Ukraine has complicated the Taiwan issue. Russian aggression may have accelerated China's timeline to resolve the Taiwan issue. On Sunday, Vladimir Putin oversaw a pared-down naval parade. He evidently was not concerned about the long-range drone attacks that have been coming from Ukraine, or the supposed coup attempt by the Wagner Group just last month in June. During the Navy Day celebration in the port of St. Petersburg, Putin announced that Moscow's naval forces would receive 30 new ships this year, despite the economic and military pressure on the Kremlin, all the sanctions that are going on because of the war in Ukraine. While this year's naval review included the same rough number of vessels, it was noticeable for its lack of strategic nuclear submarines and aircraft. Yeah, the ones that have the Satan missiles that can create the nuclear tsunamis and the bombers. Yeah, for the first time they were not in this parade. So where are they? Another sign that we're probably getting closer to war and you guys need to be prepared. There's a virus that was discovered by Microsoft in May called Volt Typhoon. It started out as a malware virus there at the U.S. government's facility in Guam. Currently, the U.S. government is only concentrating on the systems that have been affected that are part of the military. But this Volt Typhoon has now infiltrated regular networks for citizens. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence 2023 Annual Threat Assessment makes clear that the cyber threat posed by the People's Republic of China, PRC, probably currently represents the broadest, most active, and persistent cyber espionage threat to the U.S. government and private sector networks. Just think of all the sleeper cells we have here in the United States, and all the male Chinese and Iranians and Russians, Syrians, you name it, that have been secretly coming into our country. With our borders wide open, we don't know who any of these people are. They're not being vetted. Homeland Security also said that China's cyber pursuits and its industry export of related technologies increase the threat of aggressive cyber operations against the U.S. homeland. China almost certainly is capable of launching cyber attacks that could disrupt critical infrastructure services within the United States, including against oil and gas pipelines and rail systems. I have reported about the sabotage that's been going on our rail systems. And how many of you remember when Russia attacked one of our pipelines, causing the explosion and fire? This code, which they name Volt Typhoon, officials say appear to be directed at ordinary utilities that serve both the civilian populations and nearby military bases. Only American nuclear sites have self-contained communication systems, electricity and water pipelines. So far, this Volt Typhoon code has not been found in classified systems. Officials declined to describe the unclassified military networks in which the code has been found. The U.S. tech firm Cisco Systems Incorporated said it has seen disturbing evidence that Volt Typhoon is readying itself for something dangerous. Like I said, Microsoft discovered this virus back in May, but it's been in our systems since 2021. Like Microsoft and SecureWorks, Cisco's experts refuse to say exactly where they have encountered the group. Cisco's director of threat intelligence, Matt Oley, said the company was called in to deal directly with one case at a critical infrastructure facility where sabotage preparations seemed to be the best explanation. The hackers were hunting for documentation showing how the facility worked, Oiley said, and they did not appear to be after money. He would not provide details, but said it's the kind of critical infrastructure that would definitely be targeted in a conflict. We definitely had alarm bells going off, he said. The first sign of compromise emerged in telecom networks in Guam, according to the New York Times report. The National Security Agency discovered those intrusions around the same time. The Chinese spy balloon was making headlines for entering U.S. airspace. It then enlisted Microsoft to further investigate, eventually uncovering the widespread web of compromised multiple sectors, with them particularly focusing on air, communication, maritime, and land transportation targets. Officials say that if the malware is activated, it is not clear how effective it would be at slowing an American response, like if they attack Taiwan. They may decide to attack U.S. private infrastructure like your water and your power to create a distraction right here in the U.S. In interviews, officials said they believe that in many cases the communication, computer networks, and power grids could be quickly restored in a matter of days. Yeah, right. Yeah, do we have an enemy within our own government? Do you think our president has been compromised? A warning from the Homeland Security Department, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency said that the state-sponsored Chinese hacker was living off the land, the phrase that means that it was avoiding detection by blending in with normal computer activity conducted by authorized users. But the warning did not outline other details of the threat. Many of the attacks from China-based groups have targeted networks and edge devices from companies such as Frenex, F-R-T-I-N-E-X, Pulse, Netgear, Citrix, and Cisco. Volt Typhoon, the campaign that Microsoft disclosed back in May, is no exception. The Microsoft analysis showed the threat actor proxying all network traffic. Viva compromised routers, those that are in small office or home, what you have in your home, your routers in your home. These are from companies as ASUS, Netgear, D-Link, and Cisco. Yeah, the largest routers that most of us probably use. When it said Netgear and D-Link, boy, I took notice. Here is a notification from the company Netgear Security Advisory regarding Volt Typhoon. Netgear has become aware of the intentional cybersecurity threat actor known as Volt Typhoon that is targeting devices such as router and mesh Wi-Fi systems. I'm not sure of the date on this, but it goes on to say at this time we are not aware of any Netgear product vulnerabilities being exploited by Volt Typhoon. If we are notified of such vulnerabilities, we will fix it for all products that are within the security support period. So if your product is past your warranty, you're just screwed. It says keep your firmware up to date by following the instructions below. I have no idea. I have Netgear for a router. And I told you guys in previous videos that I was having problems with my internet, and I called my internet server. What it wasn't my Netgear. It ended up being my internet provider, who was probably, compromised. I would have no idea, being the average dumb citizen, how to update my firmware for my router. I would have no idea how to do that. I do have a strong Wi-Fi password. I have security on my computer. I use Norton. Yeah, it's not cheap. I have all the bells and whistles that go along with their product. But this is something that they would probably deploy when they go to war with Taiwan to create a distraction here in the United States, so we don't know that World War III has just started. Most people would be more concerned why their game system isn't working, why they don't have television or cell phone service, things like that, water, power. Right now, they're in all these systems, gathering all that information. They're doing reconnaissance work. They already know, it's already been published, that they have been looking into different infrastructure facilities, to send out their sleeper cells to blow them up, shoot them up, vandalize. Another thing that they have infiltrated is for supply chain orders. When you send in your order to what the store might need, to the company, to the factory, to restock the shelves. That's been infiltrated too. One of their favorite mediums is launching and staging attacks from network edge devices. That was according to Craig Jones, a vice president of security operations at Ontune, ONTINUE. These groups demonstrated proficiency in infiltrating target networks and maintaining persistent access and operating covertly within compromised systems for extended periods, said Craig Jones. Moreover, they excel in orchestrating supply chain attacks, leveraging trusted vendors and software providers in executing attacks, Jones notes. An edge device is one that serves as an entry point to an organization or a service provider's network core. It includes routers, switches, wide area networks, WANSs, firewalls, and integrated access devices, IADs. Ben Reed, senior manager of cyber espionage at Mandiant, assesses that China has the sophistication to create malware capable of disrupting critical infrastructure. Given the large number and distributed nature of U.S. critical infrastructure networks, it is likely that if they made the political decision to cause a disruption, they would be able to have some effect, he said. However, because the U.S. continues to only invest and investigate its defenses, so the scale of the potential impact is uncertain. Once again, they're only concerned about the continuancy of government. The heck with the little people. Do you really believe that if our power goes out because of a hack, a private network of power, that it would be restored in a matter of a few days? I don't. Yeah, and think about all the things that is needed for power. People on life-saving equipment in hospitals, in their homes, the sewage systems. Many cities need lift stations to pump the sewage, otherwise it would be backing up into everyone's homes. Just another reason that people should be putting backflow valves into their home. I did a video about that. Another reason for people to have their own private backup system for power, be it a gas generator, be it a battery bank. And if you don't already have the gas and diesel stored up, well, the banking systems are not going to be working. The ATM machines are not going to be working. The pumps at the gas stations are not going to be working. You won't be able to buy groceries because unless you're paying cash. I don't know how many people can actually count money in the stores anymore. But you would have to have ahead of time cash on hand because you won't have access to it if the power grid goes down. And for now, they're only worried about the military bases. And evidently it must be a big enough problem where they're only looking at the military bases and not at the private infrastructures. So what are your thoughts? Put your comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. As always, please be prepared. And I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.